everyone, welcome to Biophilia, your all-time study mate. Today we are going to start a new chapter from class 12 named Reproductive Health. If you feel that this video gives you any help to understand concepts, do like, share and subscribe to our amazing channel. So now let's get introduced to the chapter's title, that is reproductive health. So पहले लोगों को लगता था that whenever the reproductive organs are healthy and performing normal functions, it is said to be reproductively healthy. So the definition was given as healthy reproductive organs with normal functions. But later on, with more development in the research, the WHO, that is the World Health Organization, had said that it is not only needed to have normal functions to be healthy, but also you should be well-being, that is in the physical, emotional, behavioral as well as social aspects for reproduction. Then only you are said to be reproductively healthy. So that was the new definition given by the World Health Organization. So now let's understand about the problems and the strategies that were developed after the India's independence. So independence के बाद the population had been going through a different state of mind. Independence मिलने के बाद even government was new into its function. So during all those times there were many problems and there were some solutions which were implemented. So let's discuss about them one by one. So first was a very important thing done by India, that was to introduce family planning program. Family planning program first time India ने introduce किया था to the world in 1951. So that is a very important type of MCQ that can be asked, that who initiated family planning program. So it was initiated in India in 1951. अब ये फैमिली प्लानिंग प्रोग्राम जो था वो लोगों तक पॉपुलर हुआ था by the name of reproduction and child health care program. So that was nothing but RCH. So even RCH का full form is asked as MCQ. So you should get full marks according to these two questions discussed. अब ये फैमिली प्लानिंग इंट्रोड्यूस होने के बाद it was expected that the population would be under control, so it would be beneficial for the newly formed government. But let's see what were the other problems that they were facing. So second था कि ये सारे चीज़ें लोगों तक पहुँचाने के लिए the people had undergone the audio visual techniques, wherein there were many advertisements, there were many posters through print media, as well as government and non-government agencies were working so that people would understand and to create awareness among the people. लोगों को ये बात समझाना ज़रूरी था that how reproduction occurs in humans. So government as well as non-government agencies were using different types of methods to create awareness among the people, because if awareness is not there, then there is no solution to the problems. Next was, it was very necessary during that time that in the schools itself it was introduced and encouraged to provide right information, क्योंकि अफवाहें फैलने के लिए टाइम नहीं लगता है. So there were many myths, many misconceptions regarding sex education in India. So it was very necessary to get introduced and to provide right information at the young age itself. So schools में introduction was very necessary during those times. Next was, it was very important for the fertile couples. So जो fertile couples है, even the people who are of the marriageable age, उनकी शादी होने के age है, they should understand or they should get the right information about the birth control devices, the care of pregnant mothers, prenatal care, so before the baby is born, how the care should be taken of the mother as well as the child, and all such things should be known to the fertile couples as well as people who are of the marriageable age. So all this information was told to people through family planning program as well as government and non-government agencies की तरफ से भी the people were told and they were made aware about these things. Next था कि लोगों को ये बात भी बताना ज़रूरी थी कि what is the type of STDs यानी sexually transmitted diseases के बारे में बताना ज़रूरी था, even how the growth of reproductive organs takes place so that they could have a reproductively healthy life. So for that reasons again knowledge was spreaded through various types and people were made educated to understand these concepts. Next was a very important thing that was needed कि research हो. If there was research done regarding reproductive health, then there were many problems solved. So again research was needed to be promoted so that many people go into it and new types are developed. So एक type develop हुआ था, that was Saheli. So we'll see about Saheli in detail for the further classes. So Saheli was developed by Central Drug Research Institute, that is CDRI Lucknow in India. So again this is going to be a very important MCQ that can be asked कि Saheli was developed where. So who developed Saheli? That was by CDRI. अब सहेली क्या है? सहेली is nothing but a new type of oral contraceptive pill. So oral contraceptive pill was developed by the CDRI for females who wanted to stop contraception. So that was made for the females by CDRI. So that was some of the problems and strategies that were introduced to you with this slide. Next was there were some measures taken over to control the population. Population after independence was growing up at a very higher rate. So it was very necessary that there were some measures taken to control the overpopulation. So overpopulation control करने के लिए the first step that was needed, education of the people. People needed to be told कि there is a time and how much population should you grow. So education was needed, so the people who were of the reproductive age, they were educated about the advantages of small family. Small family hogi, so there would be many advantages like the people in your family would get equal opportunity to be fed, खाना कम नहीं पड़ेगा, there won't be income crisis. So all those things needed to be told to the people who are reproductively active. So education के लिए there were many posters set up. So posters पे लोग slogans लिखते थे like couple should have a happy couple is with 2 children. So वैसे pictures बना के लोगों को slogans बताए जाते थे like हम दो हमारे दो, शेर का बच्चा एक ही सही. There were many slogans and many advertisements posters who were put up on the wall so that people could get aware about this need of less population. Next was there were many people who have even adopted the system of one child norm. तो जितने कम बच्चे होंगे during that time of the independence era, these all systems were started so that the government can take a very good care of the limited population. Population बढ़ती जाएगी, resources would get lowered down, and then there could be many problems in the country. So it was very necessary so that overpopulation does not occur and the welfare of the country's citizens can be taken. Next was marriageable age. अगर marriageable age is decided, if age बढ़ा दी जाए, then in that case it was said that the population could go under control. So females had a marriageable age of 18 years, जबकि males के लिए it was 21 years. So below this it was not accepted legally. After this certain age, the marriage was considered legal. Next is incentives. So लोगों को Indians know that they understand the value of money. So अगर पैसे की बात आए तो they will understand things much more better. So people were encouraged to have smaller families when they were given incentives. उनको पैसे दिए जाते थे if they had a smaller family. So even that technique of giving money incentives was applicable for making the people understand the importance of smaller families. Next was family planning. Family planning program set किया गया था. So there were many people appointed to understand, to make people understand about the birth control measures and even to check the birth rate. So that was done to control the overpopulation during those times. So next, a small topic that you need to understand, that is amniocentesis. So amniocentesis is going to be a procedure of fetal sex and disorder determination. So it is a fetal sex and disorder determination test which is based on, so uska principle kya hai, how does it work? It works on the chromosome pattern of the embryonic cells. So जो fetal is developing into the mother's womb, so those cells are extracted और उसका chromosomal pattern अगर study किया जाए from the amniotic fluid. So amniotic fluid is the fluid that is surrounding the fetus. So from that cells are collected and then the chromosomal pattern is studied to identify the gender of the fetus as well as if there are any disorders in that particular developing fetus. So that is the process called as amniocentesis. So what is the procedure, how it is done? So first of all, the amniotic fluid which is surrounding the embryo is going to have dissolved substances as well as the cells. So ये जो cells है developing fetus के, every time it grows, after certain amount of time the cells are going to shed into the amniotic fluid. So जब amniotic fluid needle के साथ when you extract that fluid you are going to get some cells through it. So वो cells को अगर study किया जाता है then you can determine the sex of the infant as well as you can identify some abnormalities in number of chromosomes. So chromosome numbers या chromosomes को study किया जाए, you can understand the defects that the infant may have. So अगर वो पता किया जाए, so at an early stage the cure can be made possible if it is okay. So because of to have the fetus healthily born, for that reason this test was to be done. But what used to happen, the cells which were collected, they were tested for any abnormalities or the presence of genetic disorders. So chromosomes है, chromosomes के अंदर अगर कोई genetic disorder पाया जाता है like Down syndrome or hemophilia or sickle cell anemia, so all these diseases could be previously told to the parents and from the very first day preventive measures could be taken so that the fetus after its birth can have a better quality of life. So uski wajah se ye amniocentesis used to be done, but people used to take a misuse of this procedure. What did people used to do? There is other version, they used to take it as a advantage to understand the sex of the unborn baby. So unborn baby जो fetus है which is developing inside the womb, उसका gender पता कर लेते थे and when the gender used to come out to be a female, so when the case was female, in that case it was followed by a medical termination. मेडिकल टर्मिनेशन यानी वो फीमेल को जन्म होने से पहले ही मार दिया जाता था मेडिकली. सो दैट वाज फीमेल फिटिसाइड कंडीशन, सो इट वाज नॉट अलाउड और उसकी वजह से द सेक्स रेशियो बिटवीन मेल एंड फीमेल वाज डिक्रीजिंग. So that was not a healthy proportion, because of which the ban was done on amniocentesis for sex determination. So sex determination through amniocentesis or any other sort of method was banned in India so that the female can be saved and female feticide is decreased. So people used to take a very bad use of amniocentesis, but still amniocentesis is done to check the genetic disorders or any abnormalities, but the doctor is not allowed to reveal the gender of the fetus. So that was about amniocentesis. Next is human population growth. So human population growth is actually measured as annual growth rate. कितनी population every year बढ़ रही है, that is annual growth rate. So whenever you are indicating this population growth rate, it is indicated by two things, that is average annual growth rate and the doubling time. So what is the formula for average growth rate? Average annual growth rate is to be measured as in percentage. So the formula comes out to be P2 minus P1 divided by P1 into N into 100. So here what are these P1 and P2? So P1 is going to be the population size in the previous census. So previous population counting hogi, so that counting is called as census. P2 is going to be the size in the present census, and N is the number of years between the two census. So in India it is 5 years for the value of N. So in every 5 years the annual population counting is taking place, and you can put the value of N as 5 years for India. So in other countries it may vary, it can increase or decrease according to the time of census. So next is this is some data that has been calculated कि India made during different years what was the population compared to the world's population in those years. So India during independence, that is 1947, it was 350 million, whereas in the world around 1900, not exactly in 1947 but in 1900 it was 2 billion population. India ki 2000 mein it has increased to 1 billion, whereas world was 6 billion. Then in 2011 it was 1.2 billion, world was 7.2 billion. So you can see as the year was increasing, Indian population was also increasing, and now it has been to mark of billion in 2011. Now in current case, even after these 10 years और population बढ़ी हुई होंगी, so it is ever increasing, and because of increasing population the resources could go less or insufficient to feed and to have everything sufficient for this amount of population. So here is a little chart that is also represented in your NCERT. So this is going to be a very important chart to understand कि यहाँ पे 4 parts दिए हैं और 4 phases है, that is phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 and phase 4. So the blue line which is there, the blue line is indicating the death rate. So death rate is indicated by the blue line. The red line is showing the total population, and the pink line is showing the birth rate. So now if you see into the phase 1, so concentrate in the phase 1. अगर phase 1 की बात हो रही है, so in the phase 1 what is happening, you can see that the birth rate is high, whereas the death rate is unstable. So it is fluctuating. So because of which you can see that the total population is somewhat stabilized. So this stage you can say that it was around before independence. So before independence ये type की situation was found. Now see to the phase 2. Phase 2 में क्या हो रहा है? Phase 2 में there is again birth rate that is high and the death rate is decreasing. So what is happening? ज़्यादा birth हो रहे हैं, कम लोग मर रहे हैं, because of which there was an increase in population. Total population increased. So you can see that stage can be related wherein in 1950s. So 1950s के era में this type of situation was seen, wherein the family planning programs were introduced because there was a sudden increase in population. फिर थर्ड अगर फेज देखा जाए, so third phase was wherein the birth rate as well as the death rate was decreasing. So birth rate decreasing, death rate decreasing, wherein again population was increasing but at a slower rate, and this was the stage relevant wherein the sex education was started in the schools, so people were made aware about these things. Fourth phase में क्या हुआ? Fourth phase में the birth rate had started to fluctuate and the death rate had decreased. So death rate decrease हुई, so that was the phase wherein the medical facilities had developed, so the death was controlled और birth rate कम होने लगी और it was fluctuating because the infertility rate had increased. Infertility increase होने लगी because there was a better development in the country. So because of which the infertility had also come into action. So like this, you have to understand this particular graph in phases and relate to it according to the time period. So next is about the growth rate, that is depending upon four factors. So first factor hota hai birth rate, that is also called as fertility, या death rate, that is mortality, migration, and the age sex ratio. So now we are going to see some of the definitions that are required to be understood. So first is about fertility. So fertility is the ability of the reproductively active individuals. So those individuals who are reproductively able, those individuals are going to produce babies. So जितनी babies वो पैदा कर सकते हैं, that is fertility. Next is the birth rate. So birth rate is going to be the number of babies produced per thousand individuals. Per thousand में कितने babies produce होंगे, that is going to give you the birth rate. So now it can differ from the population growth rate. How it is going to differ from the population growth rate? Because population growth rate can be negative. पॉपुलेशन ग्रोथ रेट जो है इट कैन बी नेगेटिव, बट बर्थ रेट कैन नेवर बी नेगेटिव. कौन नेगेटिव नहीं हो सकता है? बर्थ रेट कैन नेवर बी नेगेटिव. नाउ हाउ पॉपुलेशन ग्रोथ रेट कैन बी नेगेटिव? अगर उनका डेथ रेट कम है and the birth taking place are less, in that case the growth is going to be negative. So birth rate negative नहीं हो सकता है, but population, overall population growth rate can be negative. So for example, पिछले साल अगर the growth rate was 1.7, अगर ये साल 1.5 हो गया है, so that is going to be a negative growth rate. Next is going to be total fertility rate. So total fertility rate is the average number of children. So it is an average quantity. So average number of children that can be born to a woman in her total lifetime. Total lifespan में a woman can give rise to how many children, that is average taken out, and that average is going to be the total fertility rate. अब डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज की अगर कंपैरिजन में देखा जाए, सो डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज आर गोइंग टू हैव लो फर्टिलिटी रेट्स बिकॉज ऑफ देयर लाइफस्टाइल इज गोइंग टू बी डिफरेंट, बिकॉज ऑफ विच डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज में देयर इज लो फर्टिलिटी रेट्स, and the less developed countries, because of they are a bit backward, the fertility rates are going to be increased. Next is going to be the replacement level, that is RL. So this replacement level is nothing but number of children for a couple to produce, to be replacing themselves. यानी कितने बच्चे a couple should have so that the population can be at a zero growth level. Zero growth level क्या होता है? Zero growth level, that is whenever the population remains comparatively stable, so equal birth rate and equal death rate, so population does not increase. So how much children should a couple have so that the number remains at a stable level? So RL is generally slightly higher than 2.0. So दो से slightly higher होता है. The reason is because sometimes the children can die before the reaching age of reproductive. So before the age of reproduction, some children can die. उसकी वजह से the replacement level is slightly higher than 2. Now in developed countries it is going to be 2.1 क्योंकि उधर medical facilities are much more better, and because of which the death of children occurring before the age of reproduction is comparatively lesser in reason with developing countries. Developing countries में mortality of children before the age of reproduction is slightly higher, जिसकी वजह से replacement level is going to be 2.7. Next is mortality. Mortality, just like fertility, it is calculated in per thousand individuals. So death, that is per thousand individuals, that is mortality. So mortality nowadays it has decreased because of most of the countries have developed their personal hygiene levels, sanitation improve हुआ है, and modern medicine facilities have been developed in most of the countries, जिसकी वजह से the people those who used to die because of insufficient uh, facilities provided, so now the facilities have improvised, because of which the death rate, that is mortality, has decreased. Next is crude birth rate. So crude birth rate is number of live births. So number of live births, again this is a parameter that is calculated per 1,000%, and important, it is done in the middle of the given year. So middle of the year, that is about 7th of July of each year. So 7th of July के time पे the number is calculated for the live births that can give the crude birth rate. Next is crude death rate. So crude the death rate is number of deaths per 1,000 people, and again similarly it is middle of the year. So अगर word crude आता है, so crude is for the middle of the year. Now if it is only birth rate, then it is calculated in the total given amount of year. So at the end of the year, generally birth rate is calculated, whereas crude is for the middle of the year. Next is rate of natural increase. अब rate of natural increase जो होगा, that is going to be the difference in the number of births and death. So different of birth and death, अगर birth हुए, for example birth is say 1,000 and death हुए 200, so in that case the rate is going to be the difference between the two of them. So if in the condition occurs कि जहाँ पे birth rate and the death rate is equal, birth rate death rate is same, then in that case what is going to happen, the population is going to be stabilized. So when the population is stabilized, you call it zero population growth. Zero population growth is a situation of demographic transition. It is a situation of demographic transition. Now a very important thing that you should note, that is the crude birth rate and the crude death rate is going to be used by the demographers. So demographers are the people who study about the population in that particular country. So population की study जो करते हैं, they are demographers who are going to use the terms of crude birth rate and the crude death rate. So that was about the first part of this chapter. So this completes the first part. We will meet again in the second part. Till we meet in the next video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel. Stay smiling and keep studying hard till we meet in the next video. Till then, thank you.